Welcome to my channel, Delightful Stories. I'll be happy if you subscribe to my channel and like it. Enjoy watching and don't forget to leave your opinion in the comments about the story. Angela, who grew up in a wealthy family and was used to financial prosperity, was unaware of the lack of money. She was a late and long-awaited child, and all her wishes were granted barely since kindergarten. Angela learned that money gives a complete feeling of freedom, despite the fact that Angela hadn't earned a penny yet. Freedom was her element. She was accustomed to acting only on her own. No, Angela could not be called stubborn and willful, but the wealthy heiress was used to valuing her opinion. That's why her father's decision to marry her off to the son of some new acquaintance, the girl took with a wave of disdain. "What is this nonsense?" Angela exclaimed indignantly. "I just graduated from university. I still want to live for myself." "How will you live?" In an exaggeratedly chipper voice, Bob Blossom said, already realizing that dealing with his daughter was not so easy. He'd always known it, though. That was why he was feverishly looking for weighty argument. "For example, money. You'll be like cheese and butter," continued the businessman. "I do not want to marry you off to just anyone, but to a very rich man." The father's argument clearly did not work on the girl. "Oh, yeah," she snorted. "Of course that changes everything. By the way, it's ironic that Arnold is as rich as an Arab sheik. Well, not him, but his father. But it's only a matter of time." "Who's who?" "Arnold," Bob Blossom answered nonchalantly. "You know, the one?" "Yes, I remember." Angela grinned. What a blessing that was. She wasn't really laughing. It was like the Middle Ages, really. The heiress had always laughed at marriages entered into for the purpose of merging and consolidating joint business. It was not uncommon in their circle. And now Angela seemed destined to join the ranks of the fortunate, for whom her parents had found a hereditary prince. But she didn't want a wedding. No. Angela would have her way, especially since the groom was, to put it mildly, not much. She had no feelings for him and couldn't have any. One single meeting was enough for her to understand the slippery type. Bob had a good enough reason to marry off his daughter. At least he thought so. Not long ago, the businessman was diagnosed with a serious illness. Doctors gave no prognosis, and he, like many parents of late children, feared she would be left alone. So it was a sacred thing to take care of his only daughter. And Bob was in a hurry to settle her personal life as soon as possible. But it seemed really wild to Angela. Let others get married, so as not to violate the interests of wealthy parents. I don't care. Angela, not everyone, she did what she thought was right. And this time will be no exception. If I had to get married, it would be the right thing to do, she thought. Angela would think of something, just as long as she doesn't become a wife. That's not an option. And he did. If she was going to protest, she needed to do it beautifully and creatively. She decided with enthusiasm. She came up with a very cool scheme. Someone else would hide under the picture instead of Angela. In such an original way, she was going to let her father know that she was against the strongest interference in her life. The main thing was to find a suitable candidate and not to contradict her father. Let him think that Angela agreed to this ridiculous marriage. In the meantime, let's bide our time. I invited Father Arnold to lunch today. Bob Blossom solemnly announced at breakfast. It's time to set a date for the wedding. Angela smiled sourly and spoke through her strength. "Yeah, I guess you're right." "Well, what am I talking about?" The businessman was pleased, so sincerely that the daughter was ashamed for a second. But only for a second. She would not let anyone, even her beloved father, make a puppet out of her. "I'll wire you some money to buy you a new dress," Bob Blossom said. "And of course, a beauty salon and stuff. Anyway, you know, my daughter's got to be on top of her game." Already would have been for whom? Angela thought dejectedly. The phone vibrated, alerting the owner that the money had arrived. "I had breakfast," Angela said with a smile. "I'm going to go shopping." "That's a good girl." The businessman's daughter was not going to any beauty salon, but Assange's new dress could have helped, so to speak, to boost her morale. Otherwise, she would spend her time with much more efficiency than her father thought. After a fruitful visit to the boutique, Angela went in search of a suitable candidate for the role of bride for the rich Arnold. The girl wandered through the park, but there was on-sin-walked couples, young mothers and very wealthy-looking girls, as well as older women who her proposal is unlikely to interest. Suddenly the heiress saw a poorly dressed but pretty brunette of about her build. Angela moved toward her, but then a similarly dressed boy came up to the girl with a rose and kissed her, handed her a flower. "And this is the real life. And this is the real life," Angela thought with envy. Sincere love, sincere feelings. And no marriages in the interest of business. Yes, they're poor, but they still have a long way to go. But these two created all together. With such philosophical thoughts in mind, the girl staggered toward the exit of the park. It was 2 hours before dinner, and Angela had to clean up. She got into her favorite Audi, and with a heavy sigh drove towards home. Dinner was to be expected. It had been a dull affair. Both fathers were praising their offspring. And if Angela didn't know where to put herself, her potential wives rejoiced. Apparently, he wanted to show that his bride would be behind him like a stone wall, which he had little faith in. "Angela, go show yourself to Arnold," Bob Blossom insisted. "Let's take a rain check." Trying to hide her irritation, her daughter replied. The mere thought of being alone with that man disgusted Angela. "I'm tired today." "That's true. You've got your whole life ahead of you," Father said. And the girl sighed in relief. Apparently, the relationship between his son and his future daughter-in-law was the least of his worries. He lived, in turn, thought that with the search for a substitute bride is worth hurrying. Otherwise, he might have to marry Arnold. The wedding was in 2 weeks. In the evening, Angela decided to go hunting. She drove to a small summer cafe, ordered a kebab, and sat down at a table. And then the girl saw what she needed, or rather the one. It was a stranger with long dark hair, exactly the same height and build as she was. The old dress was making itself felt not a good time, and the stooped shoes were more eloquent than any words. Besides, she was limping. The girl was clearing the table, from which Angela deduced that she was a dishwasher or something like that. Not a waitress anyway. The girl who took the order was dressed in a nice uniform and looked impeccable. On one of the tables was a scrambled egg, which the supposed candidate put into a paper bag without a shadow of embarrassment. Continuing to watch the girl, Angela saw that she had stowed the sack in an old rickety bag. There was no doubt. This young woman was in dire need of money. "Girl, we closed quietly and politely," she told Angela. "Yes, of course," smiled the rich bride. "I need to talk to you." "With me?" The stranger was surprised. "Yes, with you." Angela confirmed. "Don't worry, I won't hurt you." Seeing that the candidate hesitated, the girl laughed. "Don't be afraid of me." "What is your name?" Sophia smiled hesitantly at the cafeteria employee. "That's better. A smile suits you. My name is Angela." Get in, the daughter of an oligarch, opening the car. "By the way, I can give you a lift." "Where do you live?" "No, you shouldn't." Sophia shook her head. "It's on the outskirts of town. You've probably never been anywhere like this before." "Then it's all the more worth filling that gap," Angela exclaimed cheerfully. It was hard for her to compare it to a fairy tale unless it was scary tale. Unless it was scary. Ever since she was born, she had been limping, and her peers made fun of her. Doctors said it was a consequence of a botched delivery. Apparently, some nerve had been hit. Sophia's mother died a long time ago, and her stepfather Frank drank like a cobbler. The girl had distant relatives, but they didn't care about her. After high school, Sophia wanted to go to some college. She needed to earn money. So she went to earn money. Yesterday's schoolgirl got a job at a cafe as an unskilled laborer. She was paid a penny, but enough to buy her stepfather a meager meal and a drink. And the food she collected from the cafe table helped her save money on food. So 4 years passed, and Sophia still did the dirtiest work in the cafe. Seeing a well-dressed stranger in a bright red foreign car, the girl only sighed heavily. She knew she would never have such a car. She could at least save for a decent pair of jeans and a t-shirt. When the girl said she wanted to talk to Sophia about something, she was very surprised. She and that girl were from different worlds. But what kind of conversations could there be between them? And yet Sophia found herself in a beautiful and comfortable car with a young, wealthy beauty. The girl offered Sophia a ride. But that's not why she invited a beggar-like working girl from the cafe into her car. "Sophia, wouldn't you like to change your life for the better?" the mistress of the car asked, and then she realized. "Oh, do you mind if I use first names?" "It's all right." Sophia nodded and asked again thoughtfully, "Guess what the young rich girl wants her to do? To change her life. But I don't have a life I don't want to change. But I don't know how to do that." "But opportunities abound these days," Angela muttered. "Not for everyone." The new acquaintance sighed. "You're probably studying at a prestigious university, or you've already graduated, but I don't have any education. You wouldn't believe it, but I used to be a beggar. And my stepfather was kicking me out of the house more and more." "For what?" "And he doesn't care what for." After she came to her senses, Sophia said, "I'm sorry, of course. You're not to blame for my problems, but perhaps I can help you solve them." The rich man's daughter spoke in an intriguing voice. Sophia looked at Angela incredulously, and she continued, "I want to invite you to take part in a play. Not for free, of course, and the amount is enormous." "Are you looking for an actress?" Sophia asked. The first thing that came to mind, and hurriedly shook her head. "I'm afraid it's not going to work out." "I assure you, it will all work out." Angela smiled cheerfully. "I don't need a professional actress. It's just a little practical joke that anyone can pull off. You don't have to do anything. It's perfectly safe. And there's nothing illegal about it." Sophia hesitated as she had to say. She wasn't used to trusting the so-called good amateur. There's obviously a catch here, the girl thought. But it sounds tempting. So maybe find out what if. The last question remained unspoken. Let it be in her mind. She was too ashamed of the idea that she really wanted to change her life for the better. Tired of this humiliating poverty. "But why me?" Sophia asked. "It's simple," Angela replied, relieved that her new acquaintance seemed interested in her proposal. "You and I have the same build and hair." The girl looked at the daughter of the oligarch, astonished and frightened. It made her laugh out loud. "No, I'm not going to set you up. Admit it, you have thought about it, right?" Sophia nodded, embarrassed. "I said it was nothing illegal, didn't I?" Angela grinned and began to tell her what she had to do. "I just want to teach my father a lesson," she finished. "And her fiancé. And you don't risk anything. All you have to do is stand with your face, and when the deception is exposed, you'll blame it on me and leave. But you have to admit, there's no risk." But Sophia wasn't so sure about that. Angela's proposal left her utterly confused. Sophia had always understood that the rich had their own quirks. And yes, they cried too. And probably for the same reasons as the poor. But she had no idea that rich people could go so far in their quirks. They had to find a girl with the right looks and offer her to be with them. So more often than not, they seemed to be just fooling around. To tell the truth, this idea smelled bad, but Sophia would start referring to this Angela. And where the guarantee that someone will believe, and what the good will declare an imposter. Yes, she would be sent to places not so remote. But on the other hand, she really wanted to take part in the wedding, and even so rich to try on a luxurious under a single dress. And at least for a moment to feel loved and desired by a girl of her circle was a pipe dream. Yes, what am I really missing, Sophia thought. It couldn't get any worse than it was, because it couldn't get any worse than it was, because it couldn't get any worse. Okay, I agree, she said. She didn't even realize right away that her voice was her own. Well, that's good, Angela exclaimed happily. Then tomorrow we'll go shopping for a wedding dress and other accessories. I'm working tomorrow. I'm begging you. How much do you make? $5 per shift. How much? How much? I couldn't believe my ears. A rich heiress who left many times more in the restaurant. And for that kind of money, you want to work there until late at night. There's no one else to offer, Sophia answered with a sigh. But I suggest you take a few hours off. In principle, yes. That's great. So where do you live? Before going to the bridal salon, Angela took her ward to a boutique that was a regular customer. Sophia denied, but the young mistress categorically stated, a girl in a bourgeois outfit in an elite wedding salon is nonsense. No need to draw unnecessary attention. As a result, Sophia became the owner of a pretty lemon-colored t-shirt and no cream pants made of shiny fine silk. So the shoes, mumbled Angela, critically examining the sandals. A cheerful color on a high, massive heel. The shoes don't need to be hurried, Sophia said. You're going to go to the bridal salon in those booties. But I'm not. Angela, remembering that her dubbing was lame, slapped her forehead in annoyance. Oh, yes, sorry, however, she said. But we can find something more comfortable for you, like sneakers. Which is what they ended up doing. Of course, Angela could have bought a dress, shoes, and veil to her liking. Even the most modest for the wedding outfit would have been the height of luxury for Sophia. But she wanted a girl from the seedy private sector to feel what a cool outfit and not to slip off the hook. Remembering her trip to the private sector, Angela couldn't believe that people could live like that, especially in the part where Sophia lived. Here were the crumbling houses that seemed about to collapse, the sense of the many dumpsters that made Angela hurriedly close the car windows, and for an appetizer, Sophia's stepfather's screams of rage. And where was it? A little while ago, she ended up near a ramshackle shack that I can't really call a house. Angela saw Sophia hand him money. He grabbed the bills and headed for a small one, apparently the only store in the neighborhood, presumably for beer. The whole thing was awful, of course. But once again, Angela was convinced that this girl was the real deal. Her only weakness was her limp, but the long, puffy dress would cover it up. And then there was no telling what might have happened to her leg. Do you like anything? Angela asked her understudy with a smile. I like everything, she said thoughtfully, looking at the dress, shoes, hats, bridal bouquet, and other attributes of the wedding. So choose. How about this? Hesitantly asked Sophia, pointing to a relatively simple, inexpensive dress. It's a good one with Marcello, Angela said, but it's only good for the town canteen in your private sector. But, you know, Sophia flashed, not everyone is lucky enough to be born into a rich family. You all mothers, fathers bring you on a plate, and we have her with character. Respectfully thought Young and said softly, well, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to offend you. It's just that the dress should emphasize the status of the father. Personally, I don't care what I wear to the wedding, but we have our own rules of the game. And I didn't make them up, you know. Sophia nodded. Angela pointed to the laconic yet very dressy dress with open shoulders. Maybe that? The girls considered a few more options. As a result, a very spectacular dress and high-heeled shoes were purchased. That's the way it has to be, Angela said firmly and added, noticing the look on Sophia's face. Don't worry, you don't have to walk much. And now the most important thing, the headgear. I can offer branded models of dressy trays, smiled broadly young saleswoman. We need a hat or a picture with a veil, Angela explained, preferably a double. Why hide such a pretty face? The employee asked perplexedly. Young lady, I told you that we need with pressure, said the heiress. Okay. Are you going to work now? Angela asked. When did the girls load the bags into the trunk? Yes, Sophia nodded. Want a lift? It's not far from here, she shrugged. Get in already. We drove in silence. Everyone was thinking about his own thing. Why are you hanging your nose? She asked Sophia. I'm afraid the girl sighed. I don't like that kind of attitude. Don't think about anything. You do what you have to do. You get the money. The rest is up to me. Sophia sighed again. She was sure that it was useless to explain to a spoiled rich girl how unseemly it was to cheat her own people. Unseemly it was to cheat her own people. Involve other people in it. Those who were born with a golden spoon in their mouths would never understand. Sophia, who's the girl coming to see you in the red Audi? Maudie, the waitress, asked. Yes, Sophia answered evasively. I wonder where you got your acquaintances from. We went to school together. Angela married well. I see, the colleague nodded. And Sophia sighed heavily. I had to agree to this insanity, she scolded herself. The wedding day was approaching, and every day she was more afraid. Sophia, no, yes, and thought about giving up her role as the only heiress of the local rich man. After all, that was Angela's problem, but in no way hers. Sophia increasingly caught herself thinking that she was no longer jealous of the Majors. After all, they have everything but freedom, and money was a thing of the past. Acquaintance with Angela became a stimulus to prosperity for the poor girl. Next year, she tries to enter at least a college. The main thing is to become a person. Sophia remembered with what envy the bar waitresses looked less at the outfit she had bought. And this despite the fact that before that, they all looked at Sophia indulgently. Well, of course they did. After all, the things were bought in a boutique, not at some market or discount center. So why shouldn't she earn money for beautiful things? Stop sponsoring the drunk. It's time she finally remembered that she is a young, pretty girl. And although Sophia will never be as rich as her family, she can be financially independent. And tomorrow Sophia will tell Angela that she won't participate in this stupid play. Hi, Angela cheerfully greeted her ward. How are you feeling? Normal, she replied, hiding her eyes. That's great. I want to invite you to a bachelorette party. I promise it'll be great. But there will probably be girls from your circle, Sophia said, confused. So what? You have something to do with the holiday, don't you? Angela spoke slowly, gathering more air in her chest. I need to tell you something. You'll tell me the day after tomorrow at the bachelorette party. Now me and the girls are going to the spa and then to the sauna. Bye for now. The mention that the bachelorette party was the day after tomorrow made Sophia go, for the next day was the day of the wedding. She idiot never told Angela what she wanted. There was still time, though. Maybe I should just not go to the bachelorette party and Angela would understand, she decided. Yeah, I'll do that. Sophia woke up to a phone call. How many times had she promised herself to turn off the cell phone on her days off? But for some reason she did not do it. Looking at the display, she almost groaned, but did not reset the call. How are you feeling? Are you having fun? Angela asked. It's all right, Sophia answered. Well, she answered beautifully in her usual manner. I'll pick you up at 3. 0, we'll go to the boutique. What for? The understudy asked again. How's that? What for? Don't tell me you're going to a bachelorette party in your unforgettable clothes. I don't. That's what I'm saying. Of course you're not. So meet me at 3, 0 sharp. Okay, Sophia muttered, cursing herself for her inability to say no. That was the only tone of voice he had spoken to her lately, and Sophia knew exactly where the wind was blowing from. No, I have money, she lied. Did you pay your light bill yesterday? No, not at all. How about borrowing from your new girlfriend? My stepfather asked hopefully. What else? But what's the big deal? I said no. Sophia cut him off. The stepfather didn't insist and left the house, went looking for him. With a sigh, the girl thought, then pay off his debts. Sometimes Sophia wondered why she never kicked her stepfather out. In fact, Frank was a stranger, so she could, in good conscience, ask him to vacate the premises, especially since he often kicked Sophia out of her own house. Usually he did it while drunk, which was almost always the case. There was one reason for his unseemly behavior. Most often it was because his stepdaughter hadn't brought money or booze, so why didn't Sophia kick him out? Partly in remembrance of the days when Frank was a different person. Yes, there was that too. But objectively, it's just Sophia's inability to say no. That's how they coexisted, side by side. Two people thrown overboard in life. Angela, as promised, arrived at 3 sharp. Suddenly, Sophia realized that she wanted to go to the bachelorette party. And indeed, why sit at home alone with him, who would soon get drunk and very possibly kick her out of the house? The girls stopped at a boutique, and Angela bought Sophia dark blue jeans and a white shirt. That's the dress code. Angela smiled, wearing the same thing. They went to a private country club. Neither of them knew that this bachelorette party would change everything. Angela's girlfriends greeted Sophia affably. The bachelorette party was fun. For everyone's convenience, Sophia went to Angela's mansion for the night. Good morning, bride, said Bob Blossom, smiling broadly. How was your walk? Hi, everything was great, Angela responded, carefully pretending to be a happy bride. Wow, how quickly the years go by, my father exclaimed. It's a pity my mother won't be happy with us. I'm not sure my mother would be happy about such a marriage, the girl thought and said aloud. Okay, I'm going to the bathroom. The makeup artist will be here soon, and I'm not ready yet. I see, the bean grinned. As Angela limped out of the limousine, the guests began to whisper understandingly. Why is our Angela limping? Betty noticed. One of her friends. Maybe she pulled her leg, Chloe suggested, the wife of one of Arnold's father's business partners. Maybe she twisted her ankle in some high stilettos. Why is her face covered? The double volta is out of fashion, remarked an elegant middle-aged woman. I can't believe Bob Blossom skimped on a more current option. Or maybe the girl was just having a good bachelorette party. A tall, statuesque blonde in an elegant suit came out of the registry office. She invited me to the play. It begins, thought Angela, who stood a little farther away. She wore a long wig, massive glasses, and a black business suit. Anyone who was well acquainted with the businessman's only daughter would hardly have recognized Angela in this stern lady. As the guests moved into the registry office, they resolutely cut into the crowd as she gave her heartfelt speech. The excitement in Sophia was growing. What was to be done? She thought feverishly. You see, it was worth a lot of work to keep herself in control. The girl worried. She even did not immediately realize that the employee of the registry office asked whether she, that is, Angela, agreed to become the wife of Mr. Arnold. Yes, she answered uncertainly. And then she looked at her fiancé and met his gaze. It seems that he suspected something wrong, Sophia guessed, and she was not at all mistaken. Arnold approached the substitute bride and, lifting her veil, screamed hysterically. It wasn't Angela. A universal cry of amazement swept through the wedding hall. The journalist sensed something far more interesting than just another wedding. The rich kids were visibly animated and frantically clicking their shutters. Arnold continued to yell, "It's not Angela. I have been deceived." The groom's father walked up to the bean and declared with righteous anger, "Well, dear Bob Blossom, didn't expect a good deal. And now don't dream. But this conversation is over." Sophia, confused, frightened, looked around for Angela. Frankly, the fake bride expected less resonance, but it was only the first act of a grand spectacle. One of the guests took a closer look at Sophia and gasped, "Cannot be." The journalists were about to divert, but they slowed down. Was there more to come? They simply could not believe in such luck. The guests were in no hurry to leave the hall either, and looked at the man with interest. It was the head of one of the country's major construction companies, Dexter. The solid businessman seemed completely oblivious to the fact that no less than 100 eyes were looking at him. "Girl, what is your name?" He turned to the bride. Sophia answered confusedly, "Sophia, you are just unbelievably like my first love." It was clear from the man's voice. He was very worried. Sophia, though, was no less, but for a very different reason. Frankly, she had never been in a more foolish position. It's true what they say, people didn't live rich. There was nothing to begin with. What did the idiot think she was going to do? "Isn't your mother's name Leslie?" Dexter asked. Sophia nodded, her eyes wide. Unbelievable. Instead of being, as she expected, a laughingstock, the poor girl had suddenly drawn all the attention to herself. Sophia was shocked. "You know what, Sophia? Let's go to some quiet place where we can talk," suggested the businessman, and fatherly embraced the girl and took her to the exit. The people, having made sure that there would be no more scoop for the day, began to disperse. The journalists were delighted. They were certainly doing a good job today. In the commotion, no one noticed the woman in the black suit. This was a turn of events Sophia could not have allowed even in her wildest thoughts. They approached the swanky themes in the cherry Porsche, and the man gallantly opening the door for the girl with a smile said, "Have a seat. You know, Sophia, you're one of the most beautiful brides I've ever seen." "Thank you," she nodded, wondering, what did this respectable man want? Would he offer to be his mistress? Was that an option? But that didn't seem to be the point. What's Mom got to do with it? "My name is Dexter." The businessman introduced himself discreetly. Why did Sophia turn pale? She remembered her mother talking to her aunt's friend about a Dexter. At that moment, she knew that Frank was not her father. So what was it? Her late mother really did go to be this rich man's daughter-in-law. Was that lucky or not? "I see. Sophia, my personal information tells you something," Dexter said. "When were you born?" "I am 21 years old, and I was born November 18. 21 years, thoughtfully repeated the businessman. So it was true. "What's that?" "Sophia, your mother is married." "My mother died more than 10 years ago," Sophia said, and her voice trembled, but she was married. True, her husband wasn't my real father. "Yes," sighed the girl. "Mom had a heart attack. The ambulance didn't make it in time." Sophia was silent for a while, and the businessman spoke. "This may seem wild to you, but I think you're my daughter." "Well, there's no point in talking about it, is there? There's a DNA test for that. And I thought there was no such thing in life," thought the astonished girl. "Can we meet on Monday?" Dexter asked. "I don't know." Sophia stretched out. "I'm working on Monday." "Do you work?" Surprised, he asked. "Where? If it's not a secret." "At the Star of the East Cafe." A little embarrassed, the girl answered, As an auxiliary worker. Angela's friend and a day laborer." "Yes, I work. I'm a handyman," she confirmed. I have nothing to do with your circle. Is it shameful? No, really. The businessman shook his head. I wasn't always rich either. I've done a lot of different jobs, from unloading wagons to courier and handyman. It's great that you earn your own living, but how did it happen that you ended up at this wedding and Angela hired me? Sophia grinned. It sounded ridiculous, of course, but that was it. And now what was there to hide? After listening to the story, the businessman laughed out loud. Well, you girls, you laugh, he laughed. If she's into anything, she'll do anything. Okay, that's your business. So how about Monday? Well, if you're busy, we can do it another day. I hope you have days off. They do. Sophia nodded. I rest on Wednesday and Thursday. Dexter thought about it. But I have negotiations on Wednesday, but Thursday would be fine. The doorbell rang. Bob Blossom looked through the video peephole and grinned. Angela showed up. They hadn't forgotten. Well, now he's going to show her his mother-in-law. Hi, the daughter said cheerfully as if nothing had happened. Hello, if you're not kidding, the bean replied. His tone did not bode well. No, I'm not kidding, Angela smiled. Neither do I intend to. Well, that's the way it is, my dear. For your treacherous act, I'm stripping you of all your cards and any assistance on my part, Bob Blossom said harshly. That seems fair to me. Damn, he really isn't kidding. Terrified, thought Angela. The girl looked visibly dejected. Not the effect she'd hoped for, she thought. So she helped Sophia. But she only made things worse for herself. Angela, of course, planned to get a job in her field of study. She graduated from the Faculty of Romance and Germanic Philology. So finding a job was not a problem. Many reputable companies needed good translators, and Angela was doing just fine. But what was she supposed to do before her first paycheck? By the way, doesn't her father intend to ask her to leave home? No, you can live here, he answered. When Angela asked that, however, you can rent another place or buy one. He's also mocking. But what did you think? Bob Blossom threw up his hands. You have no idea how you set me up. So tell me, what's the point? Have you already done your job? Whatever. Angela shrugged and went to her room. The DNA test came back positive. Sophia was stunned to think. You're not going back to your hole again, he said. And you don't have to work anymore. Next year, you'll go to college. Where would you like to go? I've always loved math, Sophia answered. So somewhere with a mathematical bias. You will go to economics. You will work for my company, but that's all later. You know what we're doing now. We're going to go shopping and buy you lots of nice things. And then we're going to look at an apartment. Sophia's head was spinning. Dexter, I'm sorry. I just can't get used to it yet. Nothing. I understand, he assured me. So I wanted to ask Sophia a question. Yes, of course. Why didn't you and my mother get married? We broke up stupidly, sighed Dexter. The story wasn't original at all. Not only did Lisa like me, but her friend Zoe liked me. She set it all up. At one of the student parties, she approached your mother, one of the first years of high school, to make out with her. But she also made sure that I walked in at the right moment. Sophia's mother's student friend didn't just make sure that Dexter saw the alleged love scene. The conniving maiden also convinced the guy that the scaffold has long been dating this catcher. Later, the girl realized that she was pregnant, which she reported to Dexter. And I'm an idiot. Thought the scaffold was lying to get me back. I wish I could do it all over again now, but I can't. Now I met you. It was like fate had given me a chance to redeem myself. By the way, you'll have a brother Kevin and a sister Rose. I'll be sure to introduce you to them. That's kind of scary. Well, I'll prepare the family first, of course. My woman is understanding. You'll see. After a great shopping lunch at a restaurant and a tour of the apartment, Dexter took his newfound daughter to the apartment he had rented for her for the week. While the formalities of buying the apartment were being sorted out, the girl stepped into the two-room improved floor plan and looked around. She thought that perhaps for the first time in her life she was in normal conditions. Sophia thought of Angela. I wonder how she is. By the way, we should call to thank her. Sophia took the new phone she had bought from her father out of her purse and dialed Angela's number. The voice of her new friend was sad. I'd like to thank you, Sophia said. Thank me for what? So it looks like Angela doesn't know anything. It's a long story, Sophia hesitantly answered. That's all right. I have plenty of time. Her unwilling benefactor grinned unhappily. Angela, can you come up to my place? It dawned on Sophia. There must be some way to thank her, she thought. Angela had done so much for me, not to mention the fact that I'd found my father because of it. I live somewhere else now. Can you write down the address? Angela was very happy to get the call. A new friend. What is it? He was a breath of fresh air, which is so necessary after something unpleasant happened. Angela's invitation came at the right time. Sitting and pining over the selected cards was no fun. When she heard that Sophia no longer lived in the hole, she was unspeakably surprised. Angela, of course, had heard one of her father's business partners say that her understudy was like his first love or something. But on that lyrical note, she hurriedly left the room. Little did she hear and talk about Dexter's illegitimate daughter. After all, the business hangout can be compared to the countryside. Rumors spread with the speed of wildfire. But the rumors someone said, someone twisted, and now Angela had the opportunity to find out everything firsthand. She gladly accepted the invitation, and it was not just curiosity. Angela really wanted to see her. I hope Daddy didn't think of confiscating the car, she thought. It was a good thing that Angela had prudently converted some of the money from her cards into cash. Otherwise, she would have been completely broke. Wow! Angela exclaimed as she crossed the threshold of the new home of the former grain of sand. It's great, I could tell. So Dexter really turned out to be your father? Yes. Sophia smiled. How are you doing? My father confiscated all my cards. At least he kept the car. I'm sorry, she said. I didn't know. What do you mean? Excuse me, Angela. Well, I mean, that's how it's going to work out. Especially since you asked me to. What's the matter with you? Well, she mumbled. I'm fine now, and you are. That's how it happened. When Angela finally realized what she meant, she laughed out loud. Here's the thing. I assure you, I don't hold it against you. You found your father. That's great. But Angela wasn't the least bit guilty about it. She was sincerely happy for Sophia. Besides, she unexpectedly liked to feel like a good fairy for this nice girl. Angela knew Dexter wasn't just rich. He was obscenely rich. Many times richer than her father. Dexter's money would open her up to new opportunities previously unknown to her. For example, an operation to fix the temple. You, Angela. I ordered sushi, Sophia said. And I bought some champagne. Sushi with champagne. I like it. The girls had a good time as Angela drank. She drove home in a cab, leaving the car in a paid parking lot. And the next day she noticed that her father looked very bad. He even seemed to have lost weight. Dad, are you sick? Frightened, the girl asked. Very. Bob Blossom nodded, staring thoughtfully to himself. You work and you work and you work and you work and you create, you might say, your life's work. Some scumbag decides to steal it. It's nothing, it's nothing, it's nothing. It's not the kind of trouble I can get out of. Angela was shocked. But it was only the beginning. Her father suddenly started gasping for air and collapsed. I'm going to call an ambulance. It's like I'm in a fog. Angela picked up the phone. The girl's hands were shaking. She did not manage to dial the right number the first time. The ambulance arrived 15 minutes later. "Things are bad," the doctor said, and asked, "Are you the daughter?" "Yes," Angela nodded. "We're taking your father away. His condition is critical. I should go with him if that's okay." The rest was like a bad dream. The father fell into a coma. To Angela's question, how long would it last? The doctors gave no answer. "It can go on for days or years," the doctor said. When the girl contacted the family physician, he dumbfounded her. "Bob Blossom contacted me a couple of months ago, and the results were depressing. I didn't know anything about it. Apparently, he didn't want to upset you or hoped it would be all right. It would have been better if I had married like my father wanted." In despair, thought the girl, but what is the point of these late repentances? People lie that houses and walls help. It seemed to Angelica that the walls were pressing down on her. The girl was scared in her own home, which she had once loved so much. Angela called Sophia, and she suggested that she come over. She wanted to support her friend, but she saw that it was not just Angela who was not herself. "That's what Sophia said decisively. Stay with me overnight." "Thank you," Angela answered gratefully, and the girls hugged each other. In the morning, while they were having breakfast, the doorbell rang. "Are you expecting someone?" Angela asked. "I'm not expecting anyone," she shrugged, "unless it's my father, but he's at work at that time." "You don't know. Maybe you've made some new friends." "No, they probably came to offer a miracle vacuum cleaner," suggested the guest. "Why guess? Now we'll know for sure," Sophia said and went to open the door. Arnold was standing on the doorstep with a bouquet of dark burgundy roses. "It's okay to come in," with a smile he asked. "Come on in." After thinking for a while, Sophia answered. Seeing the unsuccessful spouse, Angela grimaced and hurriedly turned away. Arnold handed Sophia the rose and said, "I liked you so much that I thought, why don't we get to know each other better? Do you like it?" The girl laughed, remembering the look on her fiancé's face when he tore off Sophia's veil. "Yeah, you had that face like I was an alien." "Well, it's no big deal," Arnold said. "Well, if it were me, anyone would be confused." "Isn't it?" "Probably agreed. How about some tea? I will not refuse." The unexpected guest smiled. After breakfast, Arnold invited Sophia for a walk. In the evening, they went to the movies. Thus began their relationship. Sophia called Angela and asked her to meet her at the coffee house. "I have the most amazing news," she said cryptically. Angela was intrigued, no matter how she persuaded her friend to at least give her a hint. It was so adamant. Then it was all miserable. "I'm so happy with myself, Sophia. I know you're having a hard time, but I just don't have anyone to share my news with." She really was glowing with joy, and Angela noted that her friend was, in fact, looking prettier. That's what love does to people. The news really was stunning. "Can you believe Arnold and I are getting married? And this time, it's going to be real." Sophia kept counting. "That's great, really," Sophia answered with a sigh. "I'd like to be happy for you, but I can't be. It's strange. You think it's impossible to love me." Sophia flashed. "Yes, of course you can," her friend exclaimed. "But come on, you show up like a snowball. And a week later he proposes to you. It doesn't seem suspicious. Kill me for all I care." There's something wrong here. What's wrong? We got to know each other, and we realized we loved each other. I wonder if he'd come to you if you weren't Dexter's daughter, Angela snickered. "So you can only love me for money." Sophia's voice rang with indignation. "You talk me out of it on purpose, out of envy, out of jealousy." "Sophia, wake up. If I wanted Arnold, I'd need him. What's the point of this masquerade? All right, then. Do you love him?" and very possibly he loves you. But the fact that he proposes to you within a week of meeting you is suspicious. Even though he was going to marry me the same way a few weeks ago. But no reasonable argument worked on Sophia. And I thought you were my friend, she said reproachfully. It is. I'm not so sure about that. Yes, Sophia, understand. You go away. What? Heard what? Okay, whatever you say. Angela nodded and got up from the table. You'll see I was right. She got in the car and called the hospital. Bob Blossom was still in a coma. Angela sighed heavily. It looked like she was going through a rough patch in her life. Her father was in a coma. It was also a quarrel with Sophia. But Angela sincerely wished for happiness as well. And then it hit her. After studying the many reviews from private detectives in the city, Angela gave her preference to Hope. The guy is 25 years old. After meeting with the detective, she was convinced she had made the right choice. Not only did he have an athletic build, but he also had a smart, tenacious eye. Hope asked questions professionally, and at the end of the interview, said we had a good chance of finding out what the rush was about. God willing, thought the girl. By the way, the lost money I give. Hope called 5 days later. What he was able to find out was a real bombshell. He managed to find out that the father and son were imposters. That's for sure. Unbelieving his happiness, exclaimed Angela. Absolutely, he assured me. I found a note from 20 years ago about Arnold's father. The picture is enclosed. Look at that. Yes, heaven and earth. The client nodded. The real people living under that last name died in an accident. Hope continued. At any rate, the father is definitely dead. That is, how that car fell into the river and the older man's body was thrown to the shore. The son was never found alive or dead. The current was strong. The body could have been carried away. But the real Arnold might as well have survived. But the relatives, how could they not have suspected anything? He had no relatives, the detective explained. His wife died in childbirth. Not many people here know them. So it turned out that the swindlers appropriated their documents. They moved to our city and they live there. And they live quite well. They used to work, one as a gardener and the other as a security guard. There is an assumption that they staged an accident and got away with it. Angela flashed her hands. Everything is in our hands. It didn't happen that long ago. If it were not for your order, everything would have remained open. Plotted with the detective. The girl, without delay, called Sophia. Frankly, Sophia herself doubted the sincerity of her fiancé's feelings after she moved into her new apartment. Arnold became enthusiastic and began to press Sophia, and this pressure had nothing to do with the impatience inherent in lovers and the young man. A metallic tone began to appear in the groom's voice, and Sophia began to appear in the groom's voice, and Sophia began to suspect that Angela was right. She repeatedly rushed to call her friend to apologize, but never dared. So when she saw that Angela was calling, she was glad. Sophia, hello. Angela spoke in a low-pitched voice. Don't hang up on me, for God's sake. I have important information for you. Hi, Angela, she answered. I'm not going to hang up on you. And I also missed you very much. What kind of information is not on the phone? There was a smile in Sophia's voice. Come to my new apartment. We'll celebrate the housewarming. And congratulations, Angela said cheerfully, handing her friend a cake, a bottle of champagne, and a black plush kitten with a fluffy white bow. This handsome boy is for luck. It is believed that you have to let a black cat into your new home. Thank you, the owner's newfound apartment answered. Come on in. We'll set the table. After the second toast, Angela's cell phone rang. The hospital called. Angela, we have good news for you, said the attending physician. Your father came out of the coma and is on the mend. Really, she exclaimed. Isn't this a dream? My God, what happiness! And it is possible to see him. I take it you're doing well too, Sophia said with a smile. Dad is very much out of his coma and he's doing better. I suggest we drink to that. It would be my pleasure. The next day, Angela visited her father and was pleased to note that Bob Blossom was looking much better. When her daughter told him what the detective had found out, he cheered up considerably. "You're a good girl," my father said with a smile, "and you deserve encouragement. All the cards are back in your hand." "Oh, Dad, the most important thing is that you get well," Angela said and hugged her father. That same day, Angela, Sophia, and Hope decided to go to the village where they live. The locals confirmed that already Angela and then Sophia's fiancé worked as a security guard, but his father as a gardener. After questioning, Trinity decided to take a walk through the woods. What a pretty cottage, Angela noticed when she saw a clean structure. Apparently, it was the woodsman's cabin. A young boy appeared on the porch. "I could be wrong, of course, but I think we found the real Arnold," Hope said. "It looks just like the picture in that old post." They got closer, and an older man came out to meet them. "We're looking for a man," Hope said, showing his ID card. "There is a suggestion that this young man is the one we are looking for." "Come in," said the man. "Maybe so. But he doesn't remember anything anyway. The forester told me that 2 months ago he found the boy not far from the woods. There was nothing left of the wounded man," the old man recalled. "I saved him, but..." Here was the memory. They took the alleged Arnold and him into town and took him to the hospital. In the evening, Sophia told her father what had happened, and he promised to do everything possible to ensure that the criminals got what they deserved as soon as possible.